Bruce was a friend more than a father. I would go over there and we'd have fun. We'd play video games. We'd go to the bar. He didn't know how to be a dad because when he was a dad, he did what he had learned his whole life, which was to yell, to be stern, not to have like a genuine heart-to-heart conversation, to be emotional. I think that's what one of the things he ran away from was. He just didn't know how to address his own damn feelings. He didn't talk about his family a lot, but when he did, he always told me about his dad and how terrible his dad was. And the one thing that he promised me as a kid was, I'm never going to be Bubsy. I'm never going to be him. B.A.D to me is my dad, Bruce Allen Downey. Those are his initials. That's him. He didn't know how to be gentle. He didn't know how to be, any other way than how he was raised. This is the nature versus nurture thing. In his nature, I think he could have been a great dad. But I think the way that he was taught and the way that he saw the world was completely corrupted by the way that he was raised and the environment that he was brought up in. Some of the people he was closest to at this point in his life were the people at work. Work was also a form of escape from the pressure of life because he could just go in there, talk to people who were seeing the exact same thing as him, but none of them wanted to talk about it either.
I can speak from experience. I have been there. You feel alone, and you are deeply concerned that your coworkers are going to judge you. Healthcare is already a very highly opinionated, stressful job as it is. Everybody is doing the best to survive, whether it's short staffing or sometimes it can be a very cliquey environment. When you're suffering from an emergency yourself, you feel like you can't tell anybody because you feel like you're going to be shamed or you're not going to be looked at for a promotion or maybe you're not cutting it. Okay, maybe this isn't job for you. That's something that I heard young in my years of growing up through the fire service was a common phrase you heard. Someone would come back from a bad call and you would hear, "Suck it up, kid, walk it off."
He's got all this stuff going on in his life. He's rebuilding, he's doing all this stuff, and he's still addicted to drugs. He's still, spending money on alcohol, going to the bar, doing cocaine, like all this kind of stuff, and working at a high level. This super high functioning addict, this man who's, moving up this ladder at a corporation for, medical equipment like St. Jude Medical, installing these pacemakers, still traveling around, being on call. When he gets this new house and he's got this new wife, one thing leads to another. I have another sister, 7 years younger than me. My relationship with my dad was okay. I'd say, we still went over there, but I never viewed him as, a father figure. It was more of a friend at this point in my life.
I lived with my mom in the first part of my life. I lived with my dad in the first part, and then I went to live with my dad. And I got to see things that I didn't really want to see or have to deal with as a child, so I put it all away. But as I said, in being diagnosed, I was able to look back. And that has helped me in looking at my family, my children, and see the effects that my addiction and bipolar had on my children and my family around me. It's hard to be bipolar and in the midst of it and not see what's going on around you. I guess what I like to call it the clearing. The mind clears and you're able to say, oh, wow, this is how you affected your family. This is how you affected your kids. This is how you were affected.
I was Bruce's son no matter what. So when I did come over and he wanted to go to the bar, he still brought me. I remember sitting at the corner of the bar with him all the time. He would take me to all these places, and Coleman's was just kind of like a home away from home. He had all these people who knew him. We would sit on the chairs together, right next to each other. I would drink root beer, he would drink Guinness. That's when I tried my first taste of alcohol was with my dad. He had me taste Guinness. He called it Irish root beer. And I can look back on those times fondly enough. And again, I also realized I was raised next to my dad in a bar stool because he didn't know how to actually talk to me. It was this rowdy place. It was a place where everyone knew my dad's name, and it was a sense that, a place where he escaped everything, I think. They had a nickname for him. It was Baby Arms. It wasn't because he was a small guy and had small arms. It was because those were the size of the lines of cocaine he did off the back seats of the toilets in Coleman's. He knew the guy who owned the bar. He knew the sons of the guy who owned the bar. He knew all the regulars who were there too. And he would do stupid shit like get into bar fights. He would, I think it was his birthday one year. He got so fucked up on alcohol and cocaine that he was walking the single block he had to go to walk home, got hit by a car, and it broke his leg. But what was actually going on is my dad attempted to jump on the car and ride it and car surf, but he was just so fucked up on, I think it was just cocaine, but it could have been more. If people don't see what addiction's doing to you on a very visceral level, then what the fuck is the issue then? I feel like if they don't see it, nobody's going to say anything. I definitely think there was a conglomeration of nurses and everybody who saw him, talked to him at work, and I think that was it was a good community for him to be surrounded with, was other people who were experiencing the same level of morbidity and stark reality that life is very fragile, and I think nurses and doctors all understand that, and that's why they try to make the best out of the time that they get to see each other. You don't want to see that you're part of the problem, that you don't want to see that you're somebody who's suffering too. So that's savior syndrome. Same thing.
In my younger years, being the provider, right, I could see somebody in panic and, you're like, oof. You see somebody that is super depressed and, you feel bad for them, but I didn't really understand what they're doing. When I had my traumatic accident, that is when reality came forward to me. There I was as a paramedic, home alone, feeling like I had nobody to call because I didn't want anybody to judge me. I thought, oh my gosh, I'm going to get stuck in a psych ward. I'm going to be stuck on medications for my life. You just start spinning and spinning. I don't feel good. I was super anxious. I didn't know what was wrong with me. And instinctively for us, we are the helpers, right? It's our job to try to fix and stabilize a problem. After I went through cognitive behavior therapy and learned a lot about changing the way you think and changing the way you respond to situations, I realized that there was a whole different pattern and path to life and approaching it situations. Now, as a healthcare provider, having that training, I feel like I can sympathize with the patients that I work with that are having an emergency. I feel like I can help try to comfort them a little bit more of, sometimes I've been honest with them. Somebody's having a panic attack and I can honestly tell them I know how you feel. I have been here and it will get easier with a lot of hard work.
At least I can look at my family as a whole now and see that effect and how the mental illness and addiction is affecting just certain persons in the family.
After you receive therapy and you receive help, you actually see that there's a whole different mindset and a way of life. And we now are the educators. So we are now the voice for the younger generations that are coming into this career of, hey, it's perfectly okay if you didn't like this call. It's perfectly okay if something bothered you. Come talk to us. You're not going to be judged. Nobody's going to think poorly of you. You're a human being.
You know, as time went on, he started, bringing me less and less over to the bar to, have more time by himself to unwind and do all this stuff. And I was left at home with my sister to, play video games and do stuff like that. It's not like we didn't, do things together, but I think he started compartmentalizing the bar and family and started separating us. He didn't want to, have me next to him. He didn't want me to be there. He's living life at a faster speed than I think anyone could have imagined, and I think was part of the thrill for him, and I think that was his escape, is distracting himself with all these material possessions, all these, fleeting things, all these, binges, all these manic episodes, and then these depressive episodes where he'd, cold shoulder us, be upset. He would get aggressive still. It's not like you didn't see the ugly face of addiction. It's just I didn't know how to put a word to it. I was so young, I just thought my dad was just kind of like a mean guy sometimes.